Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. We are back at this NBA playoffs. We got best bets in this video here for Tuesday in the NBA. All Eastern Conference games as we go for 3 here on Tuesday night. Want to make sure to subscribe to that page. Check out the Playa Props video that we also have up alongside these best bets. We're bringing you both these episodes each and every day moving forward throughout this NBA playoffs. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use everything we have up on the site right now, including that prop finder tool we always tell you about to make sure you're getting the best juice back on all of these bets you are making in the NBA this postseason. Nate, let's continue these playoffs here with your first best bet. I like what you're looking at here.
Yeah, I was chomping at the bit to get this one out because I just think it's a great opportunity to get the Magic basically plus 350 on the money line here in game 5. And the actual bet is -1.5 series spread, but I would give it a 99.9% chance that the Orlando Magic win game 6 at home if they're able to get this one. That Cleveland just packs it in after what we saw from their effort in Orlando in the last 2 games. I don't think that there's any way that there's not the writing on the wall here that Donnie Mitchell is moving on this offseason, that Allen and Mobley have never really fit together, and that there's all sorts of chemistry issues, and Donnie isn't completely healthy at the moment. So, the thing is, like, they won those first 2 games, but their offense hasn't done anything impressive all series, right? So it's like if Orlando even gets to like moderate, they don't have to have this crazy positive regression that they just had at home, but if they even have moderate shooting, like, they should be in this game at the very least. Cleveland right now, even in the first 2, they had the worst assist to turnover ratio of any Eastern Conference team at home. The last 2, obviously, they had the worst true shooting in the playoffs. They shot 23% from deep. They had, even in the first 2, they only had a 103 offensive rating and shot 29% from 3. So, like, they were scoring all their points off second chance, points off turnovers, and the Magic have kind of figured that stuff out, right? They moved Paolo off the ball a little bit. He only has 4 turnovers in these 2 games in Orlando, and it kind of unlocked Franz to just go off in game 4. And if he's going to be part of the party, then Orlando actually has a decent offense, and this isn't the 2 worst offenses in the playoffs by far. Orlando has been able to put up some points, but they can defend. You gave a young team some life here. The Cavs did. If you think you're just going to like come home and now walk over them, like win each home game easily, like you did the first 2, that's probably a misnomer. The Cavs, I know there's a stat out there that the Magic, that they had the last team to win 2 games in a row by this much in the playoffs were the 21 Bucks and 16 Cavs, who went on to win the title. And I don't know what the stats and info has about like the last team to lose two by that much, and whether they came back and won any more games in the playoffs. Like, but I just think that shows where the Cavs are at here. Is just like, the vibes are not good. I don't trust them to handle business at home, and I just think you have plus 350 here, basically for Orlando to win this game.
Yeah, I'm with that. Like, the only thing that you can use as rebuttal here is like, are the Magic really that much better at home than they are on the road, which they were during the year, but not that much of a difference, not winning by 40 or losing by 20 the way that they did in those first 2. I would assume that I am assuming that the first couple games were the Magic first playoff games, first real playoff games, not 8-1, right? Not a bunch of random cobbled together dudes that they put together to make an 8 seed. Like, this is a new time, and I would agree with that. Like, if everything that you're saying is correct, I got a little bit scared of it, but the over for this team total for Cleveland, if you believe that they're more the team that they were in Orlando, even now that they're back in Cleveland, than they were in the first 2 games, and you believe that's way closer, like, or at least somewhere in between 120 points and 83 points is their likelihood here, I think they get 100. If they do get 100, I don't know that the Cavs come along. Like, I'm trying not to do the recency bias thing. I just think that the way that Orlando kind of came out and just they dominated from everywhere, man. And it's mostly about the Cavs and what they look like more than anything. So that's also why I was like, you know what? Orlando could win this game 90-85. That wouldn't shock me necessarily. Their defense is still going to be their calling card. And it still was, even as they were wiping the floor with the Cleveland on the offensive side of the floor. They're also limiting them to under 100 points. So if anything, it's like, why do you think Cleveland's going to score 102 points in this game more than even like Orlando scoring theirs? But I'm with you on that. And I stayed away from either total, just to be totally clear. I just wanted to kind of bring that up as what I was looking at, because I do think Orlando is going to be able to score moving forward throughout these playoffs, to be honest, at least better than they did in the first two games. So I'm going to go to an over here that we're both kind of looking at, but I'm going to take the game over for Milwaukee and Indiana. If you kind of extrapolate out all the sort of player props and what you expect from everybody that's going to be playing in this game, which, by the way, there's rumblings that Giannis shows up for this game, in which case I still like the over at 216.5 just even more, to be honest, because he's that important to their offense, especially with Dame out, as far as unlocking things for this team. So I went with the over for the total regardless, 216.5, and I think it's mostly comes down to Indy, which I know you're going to talk about their team total, and I'll try to stay away from that, but a large part of this is just them doing their thing and really looking like the team that they are and were all season in the last three games, and looking like a shell of themselves in the first game, just because of 39-21 splits, right? They shot 39% from the field, 21% from deep. And I just don't see that output getting replicated now that they've gotten those first game jitters out, which is what they did. It's not just the shooting. They had 20 dimes in the first game and 12 turnovers. And that is just by far well below what their season average is for that. You look at the last three games and they back, right? 6.7 turnovers in the last three games. So all the weirdness that they had in that first game, I feel like it's completely gone, even after game two where they won. And Dame was in that game, as we know. And now you're talking about 6.7 turnovers in the last three, plus 34 assists per game in the last three for them. So looking like the Indiana Pacers that like to get out and run and move the ball and shoot a lot of threes, which they've now made 42.5% of their threes in those last three games as well. Up that field goal percentage as a whole to 49.6, basically making half their shots now, and scoring 124 per game in that time frame. So I'm believing in that form of the Pacers, not the game one jitter form of the Pacers. And for the Bucks, like they will keep this pace up if you run at them, and not necessarily like they're getting out into the fast break. It's just that they're also shooting early in the shot clock, playing at about a 96 pace, 92 in the other game here that was in Indy. But we also saw a 96 pace in game one. And like I said, it's mostly shot clock, like early in the shot clock field goal attempts for this Bucks team that's helping us keep that pace up a little bit. So I'm going to keep riding that momentum and take over 216.5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the Giannis thing would definitely throw a wrench in terms of, the competitive nature of the game. But I do think, it would lead more to an over because it can't stop him. The Bucks offense is what I'm worried about, which is why my first thought was let's just take the Pacers team total and maybe even ladder it up to where it was at 113.5, where it was in Indy, and get plus 150 there. 109.5 is their team total. I know they were close. They barely got over that right before game 3 went to overtime. But other than that, I mean, you laid it out. I mean, their assist to turnover ratio is just staggering. And they're not playing that fast in terms of fast break points. They're actually not even getting fast break points, like 9.5 these last two, but they're just absolutely shredding them in the half court. You can still play with pace in the half court. It's just like every possession is ending with Miles Turner getting a wide open three. He's hit 60% of them in these back-to-back games. They're shooting 41% as a team, 17 threes. Even if Halliburton is a little limited by the back spasms, which he was kind of in game 4, TJ McConnell come in and just keep the gas down, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, they just their depth, the same reason that makes them frustrating to bet like player props on, is just why you love their team total, is because you don't know who's going to finish the possession. Like the ball's just going to zip around and somebody's going to get a good shot. So love the Pacers to carry this over, and I mean the Bucks to put up a fight here with their backs against the wall. My second pick officially, though, is Knicks minus 0.5 fourth quarter spread, which to me is like in a series that's this close, every game has been this close, like taking 1 point versus the -4 spread for the game is a lot of value to just say like the Knicks are going to be better down the stretch, mostly because Joel Embiid is apparently useless down the stretch. In that last game, he was just like absolutely like he couldn't make that outlet pass to Tyrese
Yeah.
Maxey. It was that like exhausted, like I'm just gonna roll it and have you sprint, and it was almost a completely unnecessary turnover. Could not get a rebound, as we know, like out rebounded 18-8. With I think 4 offensive rebounds in a row on one sequence for the Knicks to just control that. They've now won 3 of 4 fourth quarters in the series. They have a 52.5% offensive rebound rate in those fourth quarters, a 102 defensive rating. They seem to unlock something in terms of putting OG on Embiid and then just doubling him and daring other guys to beat them. Embiid 1 point in that fourth quarter. I think Nick Nurse probably switches up his sub rotation a little bit to give the guy some rest before that. He played the whole second half and then was just again useless down the stretch. But I mean, Brunson, on the other hand, has completely unlocked the defense and is part of the reason Embiid is so gassed. Because he's just putting him in action constantly, and especially when you get an offensive rebound on every miss, you're going to put him in more action and more action. And I mean, in those first 2 in the series, he shot 3 for 13 in the fourth, no free throws, only 4 for 14 in these last 2 fourth quarters, but 13 free throws and controlling the game. The Sixers are going to be compromised trying to take the ball out of his hands. You got guys like Juicy Deuce McBride, who's going to be willing to step in and hit threes. And just think about the environment. Like the Knicks had more fans in Philly, and now we're in MSG. And these Knicks fans are foaming at the mouth. These Sixers fans are experienced very much in the playoff collapse and the heartbreak and the tragedy that is Joel Embiid being injured in 5 different ways at once when it matters most. And I think the Knicks win this game and win the fourth quarter if they're down and they have to come back, or they just handle business and seal it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the biggest fear of this bet is that the Knicks are up by 20 going into the fourth. I don't know that that'll be the case. They're going to be red hot. I wouldn't be a little bit surprised. Maybe it's just my nerves as a Knicks fan that I'm just projecting all over the Knicks, and I'm a little worried about the open. Maybe you like a little Philly to lead after like the first quarter and lose the game if you can find that. I know it's usually available for halftime lead plus final game score, but I'm good with all of it. I mean, the fourth quarter seems like you are trying to get like a little bit clever with it. Just I know that this is something that's happened a lot, but you're a little bit you're at the mercy of the first 3 quarters as well to a degree. But I would say it's a lot less likely that the Knicks are winning by 20 going into the fourth. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. If they win by 20, I would imagine they do win the fourth quarter, to be honest, as well, because the first couple quarters, still you got full strength Joel, but it's wild to watch him break down from first quarter to from first half to second half. It's wild. That's all I'll say about it. So, and it's similar to the Lakers and the Nuggets in that sense. Just like, one team is coming out hot, and then the other team is like, it's cool, we got this at the end. We've got Jalen Brunson, to your point, fourth quarter maestro. But I'm going to keep it in this game for a little SGP because I really like all 3 of these things a lot. And I really think you could bump up a couple of them, including the Deuce McBride portion of this SGP. But he's kicking it off with 8+ points. We got Oubre with 10+ points, and I got Kyle Lowry with 3+ assists in this game. And Lowry has, I'll just start with him. I really like the assist for him. It's plus money by itself, by the way, for him to get 4. Most books right now are offering over 3.5 or like plus 110 or so. And it might seem a little bit trappy because he's coming off 7 assists, but my look into it is that like he was already averaging 3.5, 4, but really 4 on the season with Philly in the 30 games before the playoffs. Joel came back and kind of interrupted that. So when Joel came back, his first like 3 games with Joel, including 2 in this series versus the Knicks, he had, he didn't get there. He had 1, 2, 3. It actually rose by 1 every game until he just got 4 and he just got 7. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Kyle, is that the potential assists have gone up. The actual assists have gone up every game, really, since Joel came back and started playing with this team. Before that, he was already averaging about 4.5 assists in fewer minutes than he's been getting in the playoffs. His minutes in the regular season with Philly were at about 28.5. His minutes with Philly in the playoffs now are up to about 33. So I'm going to keep him at that like 32-minute play for him and assume that's what he's getting here, and really feel good about the 3 assists, much less the 3.5 for plus money. And then as far as Oubre goes, like I think we'll be talking about him a little bit more, but he should have been getting 10+ points already before he started doing that that in the last game or two, right? Where he was still he was honestly a little bit shy, but then he's been coming out like a cannon in the first quarters, averaging 7 points per game in the last two first quarters, getting 7 in both of those. So, with that in mind, like, I still think this is super low because of the fact that he's going to get minutes, 38, 39 minutes or so in that range, because he is the Jalen Brunson attempt at stopper, I guess is what you would call him, because I don't know that that's going to work. Jalen Brunson's just going to pick and roll his way to getting the matchup he wants until he gets it. He has far and away the most touches in the league, but in the playoffs right now, and average time of possession and all that. But that's a big part of why he's tiring Joel out, and Joel getting tired just actually does mean a lot more points for Kelly Oubre, averaging 4 more per game when Joel is not in the game, which means when he's not playing at all. But when he's off the floor, it's going to be a similar concept of him being a top 3 option for this team on offense. And then the last part of this is Deucey Deuce, and it really starts with Bojan being out already, listed out in this game. And Bojan was his biggest threat for come off the bench and score points for us. And now I think not only that, but Deuce has proven himself as a just like really torrid defender, and really coming after Maxey as somebody that they can just throw on and be like, yo, you're going to play 20, we're capping you at about 24 minutes. So you have 6 fouls in 24 minutes to use on Tyrese Maxey to make sure that he doesn't blow by us, find other guys for 3, or continue to get easy buckets. And Maxey's getting to the free throw line as a result. And that's actually why he's even come close to covering his points props recently, is because he is getting fouled a decent amount. But Deuce is playing incredible defense on him in this series, and somebody that they like to throw on him. So I'm really feeling secure with like 25 minutes for Deuce, if not a few more, because of no Bojan. And then like the shots are still there for him. If he needs 8.5 points or 8 points for this, his prop is at 8.5. I'm fine if you want to bump his stuff up a little bit more than anything. I wouldn't bump up Kyle Lowry, maybe a little Oubre up to like 12 on DraftKings as well. But I'm really good with this at plus 200 on my money on DraftKings for the 3 of these guys to get theirs.
Yeah, I mean, Deuce had already passed Bojan, right? After game 1, we were wondering which one of those guys could kind of follow up, and we were like, oh well, Deuce, he's so young, but no, Tibbs loves him. He loves the defense that he brings for good reason. And I mean, he had MSG chanting his name last time we were there, so for him to get 8 points is fair enough. Love Oubre, and yeah, Lowry too, who's basically an extension of the coaching staff out there at this point, just moving the ball and looking to get dimes and shoot where it comes. So I think it's a solid SGP.
Yeah, a little 2-1 on your money there. So that's all the time we got for you on Best Bets, though. Continue to follow along. Subscribe to that page if you would. Much appreciated. Check out the Play a Props episode that we have up for you as well today and every single day moving forward throughout these playoffs. Until we see you next, happy betting.